Come on, Cowboys. What y'all got to say? Oh, we about to go to the...
Shut up! Before I bust a cap up in your ass.
I thought y'all was beating the world.
Shut up!
Maybe next...
Say another motherfucking word and this shit is over.
But we the most hated franchise and everybody...
Shut the fuck... Shut... Did I say... No! Oh, shit! Say it again. Say something else. Oh! Say something else. Say something else.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Head to Head Sports. I'm your host, Brian Parker, along with my good co-host. Well, I don't see my co-host, Mr. Randall Hargrove. He may be running just a little bit late. We give him a little bit of time to come in, but just wanted to welcome everybody to the show. We are streaming live and direct on LinkedIn, Facebook Live, Instagram, Roku TV, Amazon TV, as well as YouTube. Please, if you can, help us with our push to 10,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel by going to Empower TV, like, share, and please subscribe to the channel. If you are viewing us on any other platform, we thank you for that. We also ask that you share that feed with others. Just let them know what you're watching. This is our fourth season doing the show. So yeah, we've been doing it for a while, and we normally get it started in the preseason of the new football season and go all the way through Super Bowl, which is where we're embarking on now. So please share that with other people to let them know what you're watching. Also, programming note too, if you are a business owner, if you provide events, if you sell products or goods, and you would like to be able to advertise, we will partner with you and help advertise and get the word out. So please reach out to me, either direct message or the Parker Media, the word the Parker Media at gmail.com, and send me a message, and we can either do a still shot read, or we can actually do a full-blown commercial and be able to put your goods and services out there. So we do appreciate you for tuning in. Like to say what's going on to my man Nathan out there. How you doing, sir? And others that have joined. We'll get talking to sports in just a second, but just give you guys a quick show of one of our promos for Jermaine Parker Realty. We'll be back on the other side. Buying a home is one of the biggest decisions that you'll make. Here at Jermaine Parker Realty, we're here to help you navigate through that process. We know that a home is more than just a place to live. It creates memories. Here at Jermaine Parker Realty, we're here to help. Give us a call and let us get started on your journey. All right, there we go. Just like that, we can put your good or service out there as well. So again, please reach out to us at theparkermedia@gmail.com. We'd love to be able to partner with you to be able to promote your good service and or events. All right. I think I paid all my bills. So, guys, all of these weeks built up to the NFC and AFC Championship game. NFC Championship game was the Washington Commanders against my Philadelphia Eagles. Man, who would have thought that the Commanders would have been one of the last two teams standing in the NFC? So any of my Washington fans out there, man, that was a hell of a ride. You got yourselves a quarterback. You got yourselves a pretty good team. They may need to do some other things, like maybe finding one more receiver to help McLaren. I know De'Ami Brown is looking really, really good. You got a good tight end that can also catch, and some other guys out there too. But a really, really strong number two and then sprinkle in some De'Ami Brown, and I think you guys got a good thing. Maybe a more of a and then Eckler coming back. Uh, it's just really really strong team. So, and I see that defense getting better and better. Dan Quinn is a very defensive minded head coach. So, I know they came up short, had some turnovers in that game, but listen, they really really um, showed everybody how you can turn a franchise around. So good things for that. Fly Eagles fly. Nathan says, Nathan, check it out. Fly Eagles fly, baby. I was ready for you. Absolutely. Fly Eagles fly. But anyways, so yeah, you know who I'm going for. But anyways, and then on the other side, I love it. On the other side, we had the Bills and the Chiefs. And again, guys, I don't know what it is. The regular season does well for the Bills, but in the biggest moments, the Kansas City Chiefs find a way to win. And look, I know y'all gonna come on and tell me that the referees work for the Chiefs, that any questionable calls go the Chiefs' way. But there were a lot of instances where the Bills just did not um, do what they needed to do on their end. Were there some questionable calls? Absolutely. There's questionable calls in every game. I don't know why people act like the Chiefs seem to get all of them. And I've watched so much football this year where I've seen phantom calls and did he get the first down? Did he not get the first down? But you have to make use of every possession that you have so it doesn't come down to these little things where all it takes is a referee to cock his eye one way or look the other way and come up with a different result than you want it to be. So yes, we can put it on the Chiefs. I mean, we can put it on the refs. See how I use that interchangeably. But again, there were some plays left on the field. When you look at the Bills, third down efficiency, 5 of 14. You got to be able to convert third downs more. Third downs keep you on the field. Third downs means that your defense continues to rest. So you got to be able to do that. They actually were better on fourth down than they were on third. They were 4 of 6 on fourth down, but only 5 of 14 on third. That is a problem. Why is that a problem? Because the more times that you don't convert on third down, you give that dude, Patrick Mahomes, another chance to not only go down the field on you, but keep the clock moving and put you more in a frantic pace to have to try to catch up. So you gotta be better on it on that. Kansas City wasn't much better. At least they were close. They were over 50%. They were 5 out of 9 on third down, 1 of 1 on fourth down. So that meant a lot. Time of possession was pretty much even. But when you look at first downs, Kansas City 28 first downs. Buffalo had 22 first downs. Again, what does that mean? Keeping your team on the field, those kind of things. And you could say, well, maybe they have more big plays. Not really, because they averaged about the same. There were so many similarities. 5.5 yards per play for Buffalo, 5.8 for Kansas City. Not anything crazy on that end. Rushing yards, Buffalo 147, Kansas City 135. Pretty even there. Passing yards, 227 Buffalo, 233 for Kansas City. Pretty darn even. And then when you look at the overall total yards in the game, 374 for Buffalo, just 6 more than Kansas City at 368, thus a 3-point game. So it comes down to every single possession in a game like that when you're going up against Kansas City. A lot of people said that Josh Allen should be the MVP because he typically has to do more with less. Well, I will say that Patrick Mahomes does as well. Yes, Travis Kelce is a beast, but he's an aging beast. Is he the Travis Kelce that he was 6 years ago? Hell no. But he still demands attention. maybe not necessarily double teams all the time because you can't really do that when you've got other folks out there. Kareem Hunt, Xavier Worthy, Pacheco, um, uh, when you've got oh my gosh, let me think of his name. Juju Smith Schuster, when you've got P. Ryan, D Hop, when you got all those guys out there, it's going to be hard to just focus on Kelsey. As a matter of fact, when you look at it, Kelsey didn't even receive but 2 receptions in that game for 19 yards. Now, the game before, and we can talk about that too, Kelsey was more uh, of a presence in that game. But out of the receivers, and this was a point of emphasis when the Kansas City game got started, you could tell that they were committed to getting the ball to the receivers because in the game before, the tight ends had done most of the receiving. But they got the ball out. Hollywood Brown had some catches early. Xavier Worthy had some catches. Smith Schuster had some catches. Even they got Pacheco in there. D Hop got 1 catch. Kareem Hunt got another catch. So um, they really spread the ball around to a lot of different receivers. Then they let Kareem Hunt really lead the running backs, even over Pacheco, who started the game. Kareem Hunt had most of the impact with 17 carries for 64 yards. So, uh, again, very balanced attack. Mahomes did Mahomes like things, 18 of 26, 245, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Oh, and then he did a lot with his legs. Mahomes ran 11 times for 43 yards and 2 touchdowns. So this team knew at the end of last year they wanted to go for 3. No team has done a three-peat in the NFL. And Mahomes made sure that he was going to put all of it on the line. What's going on, Mr. Joe Lowry? What's going on, JP? Oh, JP laughing. You must have saw my Eagles mask. Oh, I'll put it back on before the end of the show. Trust me. But anyways, yeah. So it was just it just came down to a possession here and a possession there, and that's why you cannot leave it up to the referees to end up potentially determining the game. So the Bills again had a great season, but run into you got the ref stats I'm missing. What's up, Andy? I don't have the ref stats right now, but I know they're warming up for 2 weeks for the Super Bowl, so we'll see how that goes. Actually, because of all of the mess that happened in the Kansas City Houston game, some of those refs were not asked to come back as far as refereeing any more games, whether it was in the NFC Championship game or potential Super Bowl, because the referees get graded, and if there does seem to be some inefficiencies, they will remove those referees and put in other referees. What's going on, Andy? Yeah, man. So I know it sometimes, but you know what? I hear this from Cowboy fans about the Eagles as well, and I don't know what y'all want from the Eagles. Um, as they shouldn't be. You're absolutely right. They were terrible, Joe. That Texans game was crazy. Even D'Amico Ryans had sent out coded messages about, yeah, we were up against a lot, you know, and people used to say that all the time. Hey, it's one thing to have to play the guys on the other side of the ball, but then we got to play the ones in black and white as well. That can affect the outcome of a game. Officiating does need to be cleaned up, and I'm sure that the competition committee is going to look for even more ways to be able to do that. They're doing a lot of the instant replay from the booth, so it doesn't always have to go to New York, or it has to be a quick challenge by the opposing coach or anything like that. So hopefully those will be some things that they can do to continue to help clean up the game. Y'all got to remember these players are way bigger, way faster than they've ever been, and whether that is obstructing views and things like that, who knows? Offsides can be sometimes very subjective because When did somebody jump? Did somebody draw them off by flinching? They normally give offensive line players a little bit of grace with it. But if it's a very noticeable flinch that could have pulled a defensive player off, they are quick to call it. The thing that I don't like is, you talking about officiating, is the um, fact that at the beginning of a season, you can tell where the point of emphasis was because they will overcall the hell out of something. But by the time this season is at the end, they rarely call it anymore, and you forget about it. The hip as it stands, go Eagles. Thank you, Andy. Andy also said, I'm sorry, I kind of wanted to see an underdog Super Bowl Washington and Buffalo, but I'm a Vikings fan, no sides here. That's fair. I would not have been mad to see Washington go, even though I'm an Eagles fan. Just because of the season that they had and the way that they played, just so free. How you play a team 3 times and get your ass kicked? It's the coach. He sucks. I wouldn't say McDermott sucks. It's just look, okay, Anthony. I'm gonna give you this analogy. Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing, Carl Malone, all kept trying to come against Michael Jordan, and he sent all of their asses home. Was it the coaching? I don't think so. Could there have been some coaching issues, maybe here or there? Yes, but I really think that sometimes, unfortunately, you come around in the wrong era. Michael Jordan snatched championships from a whole bunch of people. Um, people still want to know, did he really push off a Byron Russell or not? When he hit that jump shot. It was Scotty. If you ask Scotty, Joe, it was Scotty because Scotty said he could have won 6 chips without Jordan. Yeah, okay. But when you think about all, and here's the thing, Patrick Ewing is still going to be regarded as one of the best big men out there. Charles Barkley is always going to be. Yes, he pushed off. Oh, Jermaine. But I mean, a lot of people. Karl Malone, everything that he did with John Stockton, the great run that they had, even wearing them little short ass shorts that they had on. Um, they had all of that, all those accolades, first team, NBA, all of these different things. But Michael Jordan stood in the way of them reaching the highest of pinnacles with the NBA championship. He snatched it from all of them. Um, and I think that's what's going to end up happening with Josh Allen if he can't get past Kansas City. It seems like they can do so many great things in the regular season, but the playoffs against the Chiefs, anytime they have to go to Arrowhead, that is their kryptonite. That's why it was so important for them to try to get the number 1 seed. Because if you have to go through Kansas City, it seems like that is just something that continues to hinder them. And they haven't figured out how to get around it yet. So it's going to go into another off season. I honestly don't think it's coaching. I don't think it's Sean McDermott. What I will say is I honestly expected the Bills to take a step back because after losing Stephon Diggs and some other players off of the team, uh, it looked as if Josh Allen wasn't going to have enough weapons. But then we did see the emergence of James Cook and Ray Davis, I think is his name, the other running back, kind of step up a little bit too. But still, you didn't really see that number 1 receiver emerge and things like that. And I hear the argument sometimes, well, if you don't have a number 1, you can just pass it to anybody because everybody gets to eat. But you still need that dog. You still need that guy that, hey, when it's 3rd and 2 and you don't necessarily want to run it, you got to be able to go get it. Love Dixie. Yeah, but you got to be able to have that guy that you know you can depend on for that play. That's gonna help you move those chains. That's gonna help you have better third down conversions because Josh Allen cannot try to continue to be uh, the utility knife and run, pass, do all of these different things. You just can't. You can't do that to your quarterback. Lamar Jackson found that out. Hey, I got to be able to use the weapons around me, and that's another team that when they get to the playoffs, they implode, self-inflicted wounds. The Baltimore Ravens, another team, had a good run, had even won a playoff game this year, but then uh, when they got into the further rounds, they flamed out too. So they won their wild card. The Ravens did. Then when they get into the divisional, they come up a little bit short against the Bills. So what's the thing that's going to happen with Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson is they always have great regular seasons, but can't win the championship game to get to the Super Bowl until otherwise proven. They're always going to be in the shadow of Patrick Mahomes. And the way Mahomes played, he looks like he is primed and ready to help get them Chiefs across the finish line against my Eagles. So I'm not, even though I'm an Eagles fan, I'm not going to tell you I feel very, very sure that they're going to win this game. Ravens are scary for years to come. They really are. And if you think about it, the one thing I'll give Ravens, Andy, credit for is this year they tried to stick more to their identity. Last year, they ran themselves to the playoffs, and then they decided that they wanted to try to throw more than run in the playoffs and got booted. I agree with you, Anthony. Ravens didn't use Derrick Henry in that game. They should have used him more. Um, there were more opportunities for them to use Derrick Henry, and I felt like they got away from it. He only had 16 carries for 84 yards. There's a stat out there that I believe that either when he runs for 20 carries or 25 carries, they win all their games. And they slowed down, and he only had 84 yards in that game with 16 carries. And I agree with you. I think they should have been able to use him a little bit more. But they do tend to try to get away from what brings you there. How did you get here to the playoffs? Well, we got here by being able to run the ball. Okay. Well, we need to game plan that, whether it's Derrick Henry running the ball, whether it's another running back coming behind him running the ball. You need to be able to do that. You've got Justice Hill. Justice Hill is a dynamic running back. You got Derrick Henry, your big back. And they did run pretty well for the game. I mean, let me see. In that game, they actually ran for 176 yards. So that was the thing. If you could put 176 rushing yards on the Bills, why not keep running? 2 points. Why passing it, run it with Derrick? Yeah, absolutely. You got to be able to do that. You got to be able to impose your will on another team. Even when the best thing about a team is when they know what you're going to do and you do it anyway because they can't stop you from doing it. We know that they're going to hand it off to Derrick Henry, but we still can't stop it. Or is he going to take it out of Derrick Henry's arms and run it himself and be that dual threat? It's still running the ball, and it's still a phase of the game that they needed to be a little bit uh, more committed to doing. Now, because here's the thing: when you look at that game, the Ravens game in particular, they put up 416 yards on the Bills. The Bills only put up 273 yards. What did it come down to? Two lost fumbles on the Ravens, one interception thrown by the Ravens. No fumbles, no interceptions for the Bills. That's what it came down to. Time of possession, relatively balanced. Only a 3-minute difference on the Bills side in the positive. But it really came down to that they ran about the same number of plays, 57 to 59. Um, the Ravens outgained them in yards per play, 7.3 to 4.6. They outgained them in the air. They outgained them on the ground. If you looked at the stat, there's no way you wouldn't have thought the Ravens would have won the game until you got down to turnovers and penalties. Now, it's hard for me to believe that the Bills only had one accepted penalty for 10 yards. The Ravens only had 5 for 43. That's a pretty clean game, but you still gave up more penalty yards, even though that's pretty low. It really came down to turnovers. 2 fumbles. When you're -3 in the turnover battle, it's hard to overcome that because you're really fighting against yourself more than you fight against the other team. But again, with the Ravens, it just came down to the fact that when they get to the postseason, they just start to shoot themselves in the foot. They implode. Now, what also cost the Ravens, let's be honest, is some uncharacteristic dropped passes, particularly by Mark Andrews, particularly one that was in the end zone that had he caught that ball, everything that I just said about the Ravens would have been a moot point. They would have actually been playing Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. Let's be honest. Lamar is the best talent I've seen since Randy Moss, just my personal opinion. All around. I agree. He is so gifted. He is so gifted. Yes, he had an early fumble. I don't think that cost him the game. I would say that the drops by Andrews uh, in the open field and in the end zone had a lot more to do with that. Even the interception, I don't even think that cost them as much as the drops did, to be honest with you, and the fumbles. But it just seems like no matter how good Lamar is, you upgraded Derrick Henry. When you get into the playoffs, they just kind of unravel a little bit for one reason or another. And I don't put any of it really on Lamar this time. In years past, as talented as Lamar was, I would get on him because I felt like he did not give his team a chance to win because he did not show up and give his best. I cannot say that this time around. He definitely did show up. He definitely tried to put his team on his back, but the results are the same. So they'll have to retool. But looking at one of Derrick Henry's tweets out there, or I think maybe it was on Instagram, where he just said, "Run it back." So he's ready to go. And even this late in Derrick Henry's career, it looked like he still got several more years left in him, for sure. He was definitely a huge upgrade to their team. So yeah, the Ravens. Who's the problem then, Lamar or the head coach? I mean, Harbaugh can't catch the balls. I think now when you say who's the problem in that particular game, I will say Harbaugh should have emphasized we need to continue to run the ball because ultimately the head coach has to, you know, can just ride with the offensive coordinator doing the calls, or if he's doing the calls, whoever is in charge of play calling, whether it's the coordinator or the head coach, should have noticed that, hey, we're running all over these folks. We need to keep running. Now I'm talking about each year, last 5 years. Well, I can't say they're all the same, Anthony. It's a good question. And like I said earlier, in years past, I kind of put a lot more blame on Lamar. Because like last year, for instance, they ran the ball all the way through the playoffs, but when it got time for the playoff game, Lamar's throwing the ball all over the place, throwing in the double coverage, triple coverage, throwing interceptions in the end zone. Not now. I will give the defense that he didn't have as robust a running game, but that's how they got to the playoffs, by running the ball. Whether he was running the ball, whether the running backs were running the ball, that's how they got there. But then all of a sudden, it looked to me like Lamar was trying to prove he could throw the ball. And you need to, if you want to prove that, you got 17 games to do that. But if what got you to the playoffs was you running the ball, then you don't wait until the biggest game to try to do something different, especially if it's been working. So, and I've never questioned whether Lamar can throw the ball. My biggest issue with Lamar over the years has been ball security. As talented as he is, if you hit him at the right time, he'll cough up the ball. Not even so much the interceptions, it was the fumbles. Lamar would just cough up the ball. So I know you. So that's why I said, Anthony, whether it was them staying true to the run game, whether it was Lamar as in years past, this year it was Mark Andrews dropping the balls, the result is the same. Same thing with Buffalo. Whether it was you had Diggs one year, now you don't have him, and now you're trying to make it work with all these other receivers and your running backs and stuff, the result is the same. So I can't take 5 years of the Ravens and 5 years of the Bills and say necessarily that it's the same problem each and every year. That's just too simple. You really have to look at each year, even though the results may be the same, it doesn't mean that the same thing caused the results. That's just too easy. Now, sometimes you can say that because it's obviously that way, and we'll talk about those Cowboys in a second, because you know sometimes the definition of insanity does pop up, trying to do the same thing over and over, thinking you're gonna get different results. Um, what are your thoughts on Glenn Rogers' off-season conversation? So that's going to be a big decision for Aaron Glenn. Me personally, I would I would hope Aaron Rodgers decides not to come back. Um, you got a new head coach. I see that they just hired a general manager, and I think that Aaron Glenn needs to be able to have his quarterback, not inherit a 40-something-year-old quarterback. Um, I'm glad it's not me in those conversations. Yeah, I agree. I mean, how do you tell a MVP Hall of Fame quarterback that it's either time to hang up, it's time to hang up the cleats, and he may not think it's time to hang up the cleats and then say, "Well, look, I'll just go somewhere else." I don't know how much Aaron Rodgers has left in the tank. Every time I saw, whether it was Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan, um, all those guys, Tom Brady, at the end, they would give you a game where you would go, "That's it right there. That's that guy." The problem is you need that same energy in all of the games. You need him to show up consistently. Earlier in their careers, they were able to do that without little to no effort at all. Now, I can't wonder going into a game if the A Rod of old is going to show up or if just an old A Rod is going to show up. I can't wonder about the, they say the quarterback position is the most position on the field. That can't be one that I have questions about. Your resume gets you in the door, but it don't keep you there. What have you done for me today? Now, yes, I'm looking at your accolades. I'm looking at what you've done in the past, and that's great. All of that will be important in Canton, Ohio. But when I'm a brand new coach, First time coach, I need to be able to say, if I fail, it's because I wasn't good enough, not because I was dependent on a 40-year-old washed up quarterback that hangs it up today is still more than likely going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Nothing is going to take that away from Aaron Rodgers. If he just simply walks out today and says, you know what? I've had a hell of a career. Father time comes for all of us. NFL players are no different. Seeing Emmitt Smith in his last few years, seeing Jerry Rice in his last few years, seeing Steve Young in his last few years, seeing Michael Jordan in his last few years, especially with the Wizards, wasn't great. Now, did it take away from them being able to get to the Hall of Fame and all of these? No. Sometimes they want to keep on going. But why in the world would I sit there and Aaron Rodgers' cap hit on any team is going to be north of $60 million? So I'm potentially going to hamstring my team for an unreliable, washed up $60 million quarterback when I could draft one, pay him no more than $15 million and be able to build a team around him quick that gives us an opportunity to build in the future and get further into the playoffs. You got to blow it up. You know why you got to blow it up? And everybody was picking them to win the AFC or at least fight with the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl. What did they win? 4 games? What does that tell you? It didn't work. So you can't just say, we'll run it back. You can't run it back. You got to blow it up. You got rid of the head coach because you act like he was the problem. Then you got rid of the general manager because you act like he was the problem. But you left a 40-year-old quarterback sitting there because you went all in with him and you didn't have anybody developing behind him because you got rid of Zach. So you have nothing in the cupboards. And Rodgers will every now and then show you some of the old Rodgers, but he just can't do it. And Andy says, plus energy wise, is that what you want in your locker room? No, I don't. I don't want his energy like that. He can be very moody, malcontent, and things like that. He's not a guy that if you bring in a young guy, he's going to take him under his wings and show him everything he knows. Aaron Rodgers is not that dude. He's not a guy that if you say, Aaron, we're going to bring in this guy, more than likely we're going to start you at the first part of the season till he's ready to come in and take over. He ain't going for that either. He's not that dude. He ain't built like that. Yep, you want someone solid. He has enough other things to worry about. They need to draft a guy again. They do. They're really going to have to look at drafting another guy. Saleh is legit, right? I think Saleh is legit. That's why he went back to his roots in San Francisco as a defensive coordinator. He did a great job with the defense in San Francisco, and I think he's a decent coach. But I think Woody Johnson, the owner, meddles, not to the extent of Jerry Jones, but pretty close. And it was just going to always be a dumpster fire disaster. They have not been able to keep a good quarterback, and I have issues with the development. And to your point, Andy, you can't fire the owner, but I think the owner has a lot to do with it as well. Anthony Rogers, like, why am I teaching a rookie to take my job? Because at some point there's continuity. And I'll tell you why, Anthony. Because those MVPs that you got might have your name on it, but it was on the backs of other players. When you're a professional athlete, you understand, or you should understand, that there are those that came before you, and there are going to be folks that come after you. And if you're worried about your spot, now look, Aaron Rodgers is not one of the typical players that has to worry about his legacy and where it's going to be carved out in NFL lore. He's going to go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. Can't take that away from him. When you get to that point, you want to say, I'm leaving the game better than when I came into it. And you want to make sure that you're showing the generation that's coming behind you the right way to be a pro. Will your ego get bruised a little bit? Yes, but you know damn well that most players don't make it in the league as long as you've been there. Every year that you get to play another year is borrowed time, because a lot of players don't make it past 3 or 4 years. And you've been able to have a long sense of longevity with this. It is upon everybody, even in corporate America. You've been on your job for 30 years. You know that you're closer to the end than the beginning. You know there always has to be a succession plan, because the company just can't one day have you not there and they had no plan B. Nobody does that. I would hope they don't. And if you're just guarding what your job is, don't nobody else know how to log into something, don't nobody else have the password, you the only person that got the keys and stuff like that. Well, that doesn't really show that, you're interested in the overall success. You're interested in your success. And I would almost say that says just as much about you as anything else. I understand the mentality, but you have to step outside yourself and see the bigger picture, that you had one part to play in this league. There were players before you, and there are going to be players after you. How you are remembered is vitally important. Nobody's going to be able to take away the stats from Aaron Rodgers, but nobody's ever going to say that Aaron Rodgers was the best locker room teammate either. They might say it in front of the camera to the media and stuff like that, but we done heard plenty of other stories where we know that that's most likely not the case. His talent used to be able to supersede all of the extra drama that went with that. But now his talent doesn't supersede that. I'm not saying he's a jag, just a guy, but he's getting pretty damn close. So at some point, you've got to be able to relinquish those reins. This is the same problem on another side that we're having with an owner in Dallas who cannot get out of his own way because he wants to win his way. And that would be fine if he were actually winning. He seems to believe that he is one of the 6 winning franchises in the last 30 years. Yeah, because you backloaded 5 championships into it. But none of them have happened in the last 29 years. So he's delusional. I used to say it was just Cowboy fans that were delusional. Here's the problem. I always thought Cowboy fans would continue to be delusional. And they're probably going to still be some. Don't get me wrong. But I could not find a non-delusional Cowboy fan. There were different degrees, but at the end of the day, they always believed that they were better than they actually were. And it was almost like you have that friend that is dating the girl that you know is no good, but he can't see it because he loves her so much. But everybody else can see that she's bad news. Or ladies, the other way around. Your girlfriend's dating a guy. It's obvious he's a dog to everybody else, but she can't see it. He got a dog collar on. He got a tail wagging, and he's scratching his balls and everything else. He's obviously a dog. When she sees it, he just think he has slight jock itch. There ain't no collar. That's just a chain. all those kind of excuses she gonna make up because she in love, but everybody else can see it. Well, that's what's going on with Dallas right now. Everybody else can see that this is bad. Jerry has spent so many years selling snake oil, selling his fan base, that now the snake oil is wearing off, and they're starting to see it for what it is. I had a friend tell me that he quit being a Cowboys fan because he heard Jerry Jones say that he would never hire a general manager. He's the one that writes the checks anyway. He bought this franchise as an occupation, not as an investment, and all of those things, right? And I'm like, I heard Jerry say that like 20 years ago. And he's like, well, yeah, but I'm just hearing it. And I'm like, no, you're finally listening. He's been saying that forever. But hearing it and listening is two totally different things. I can hear sounds all the time, but am I actively listening to see what the sound actually is? It's two totally different things, you know. And now I see more Dallas Cowboy fans listening finally than just hearing. And they may have liked what they heard, but they definitely don't like what they've been listening to. Because their owner has told them that I will sit there and the only voice in the room that I'm going to trust is my own. And that is the definition of a fool. But not surprising, a lot of successful rich people tend to think that they are the SME, subject matter expert. Thank God Mike Zimmer retired. For real. But just hiring, but just trying to sit there and think that I shouldn't say that. Sure, you should. Um, and you already did. But um, thinking that you're the smartest person in the room is not what makes you successful. Surrounding yourself with smart people makes you successful. So anybody in business should always understand that you want the best people around you all the time, because then when you're able to bounce off your ideas with them, you come up with the best ideas in the room. The problem with Jerry Jones is that he always wants to be the one to claim credit for having the best ideas. Oh, which is why Jerry is one of the um, less active participants when it comes to free agency. He doesn't want to take a player from another team. He wants to be able to draft somebody and be able to say, I'm the reason. I did that. He's more concerned about who's going to get the credit. He wants the credit. And I could almost understand that early on. But when you say you got fewer days in front of you than behind you, that is definitely Jerry Jones. You definitely have fewer days in front of you. You really need to win now, you know, before glory comes for you, Jerry. Um, and I almost, and you said you shouldn't say that, Andy. I'm going to honestly say, as long as Jerry Jones is alive, the Dallas Cowboys won't win a damn thing. Jerry Jones has made clear that the only way that the Dallas Cowboys will win anything is once he is in the ground. And that is a crazy thing to say, but it is the God honest truth. I've told people that even outside of sports, sometimes when you're looking for society to make huge societal shifts and changes, sometimes some people have to be like Moses. I'm gonna get you to the edge, but I'm not gonna be able to go over with you, because for y'all to advance, some of us are gonna have to die off, and that's how society is. For society, a lot of times, to make big changes and things like that, old ideas, old traditions, things that people won't let go of because it's just so embedded deep inside of them, have to literally die with them for a new generation to emerge. And I know that that sounds morbid. I know that that sounds kind of dark. It really isn't. It's the cycle of life. You know, life doesn't stop once you die. Life keeps on going. Trust me, at least for now. But it has for, you know, however long you think we've been on Earth. Um, but it's a continuous cycle, and that's why the next generation has to evolve from the past generation. And some things you carry traditionally, but a lot of things you evolve into. There are some good owners in all professional sports, and then there are micromanagers like Jerry. That's a factor in who wants to play for you, or is it? NFL coach jobs are coveted and rare. That's a great question, Andy. And I heard Troy Aikman. You can't get any more cowboy than Troy Aikman. I mean, of course, you got Emmett, Michael Irvin, yeah, I guess you could say Des Bryant, um, and some of the other cowboy greats of old. But you don't get any more cowboy than Troy Aikman. And even Troy, when asked, said, "I don't think the Cowboys is one of the most coveted job. The coaching head coach is one of the most coveted jobs. What is there to covet? The only thing to covet about being the head coach of the Cowboys is to what you said, Andy, is that there's only 32 of them. That's a very small club when you look at a quadrillion billion dollar industry, and there's only 32 head coaches in it. But what his point was is that, hey, if I'm a head coach, I want to be able to have some say in how my team is ran and things like that. And at the end of the day, everybody knows, if you're the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, that the biggest voice in your locker room, outside of the locker room talking to the media, is going to be your owner slash general manager. That you will be undermined because of the fact that your owner thinks that they know more football than you do. You know, ask Jimmy Johnson, ask ask Wade Garrett, ask Barry Switzer, ask Jason Garrett, ask Mike McCarthy. Jerry Jones is always going to think again that he's the smartest person in the room. Even if he anoints you the head coach, you're more of a puppet on a string for Jerry. That does not make that job very coveted. And when Jerry will sit there and prefer to draft his players, that's why he loves Zeke. That's why he loves Zach. I mean, Zach, Dak. That's why he loves CD. These are players that he drafted. When he sat there and took Amari Cooper in free agency, Amari didn't last long. All Amari wanted was $20 million a year, which, if you look at it now, you just gave CD Lamb $34 million. Tyreek Hill got 26, 28 million. Jefferson just got over 28 million. That's what these guys are getting paid. He didn't even want to pay Amari Cooper 20 million. Now, if it had been one of his own that he drafted, he probably would have. But Jerry doesn't see the value of free agents because he can't claim credit for the success of that free agent a lot of times. He can sit there and try to claim, hey, I drafted this guy and now he's a all pro and this and that and the other. And that means something to Jerry. But you cannot just grow your team through the draft. You do have to be strategic with free agent acquisitions. Perfect example. Derrick Henry works out in Dallas in the summer. Jerry never called him. Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs were all available. Jerry Jones didn't call him. It's crazy. You didn't even inquire about Jason Taylor in Indianapolis. You didn't inquire about Lord, I'm forgetting the back. All these backs were out there that could have helped your team, but you decided that you were going to go with Zeke Elliott and Dowdle as your primary backs. You made no enhancements. Michael Gallup gone. CeeDee Lamb is there, but who's the number 2? Brandon Cooks? Perennial injury played Brandon Cooks, who at best is a number 3. Where was your number 2? So not addressing free agents issues really, really hindered the Cowboys. And Mike McCarthy did the best that he could do. Now, he's an old relic of a coach, but if you put him with the right team, they'll be fine. But it's hard to really tell if McCarthy was more of the issue or if Jerry Jones was the issue just because of Jerry Jones's constant meddling. Mike McCarthy, next plans. Mike McCarthy did not get as much interest in this offseason because we already knew that the 2 coordinators from Detroit were going to instantly get jobs. We knew that. We saw Pete Carroll go to the Raiders. We saw Liam Cohen go to the Jaguars. So that kind of limited what was going to be out there anyway. The Saints was going to be the biggest thing, but after not really seeing a whole lot of interest from the Saints, McCarthy has decided to sit out this year and wait around till next year to see what comes up. The good thing with that is that's not a bad thing. Maybe he'll go into, maybe go into the broadcast, not maybe broadcast booth, but sit in a studio and talk football for a year. I don't think that's a bad idea. I think it's a good idea for him to do this actually because if somebody gets fired midseason, he's not restricted by not being able to talk because he's currently on a team. If somebody fires a coach right before the end of the season, he doesn't have to wait to be out of the playoffs or get permission from his team to interview. So it puts him in a really good position to be able to be available as soon as the opportunity opens up. And let's be clear, we know that there's going to be some head coaches going into next year that it's going to be a prove it year for them. And if they don't prove it, they will move it really quickly. Aaron Jones is a stud. He is a stud. Green Bay had to move on from him. I get that. But my God, he's a stud. Didn't even call him. Didn't call. How do you not call Derrick Henry? And then Jerry says the stupidest thing. Well, yeah, he's good and all, but I don't know if he would have been able to do that in our offense. I'm sorry. Your run game was non-existent for most of the season. What do you mean he wouldn't have fit in your run scheme? No, you would have changed your run scheme to fit him. What was the alternative? Zeke, who you released before the end of the season? That's why sometimes when Jerry talks, you have to just sit there and go, "Oh Lord," it's like that drunk uncle at Thanksgiving dinner. Like, please, somebody go get his ass. It's his bedtime. Whatever. Jerry says some stuff. Sometimes you just scratch your head, going, "You didn't think Derrick Henry? Why would Derrick Henry need to fit in your non-existing run game? How about you change your run game to fit what Derrick Henry does best?" I mean, he only ran for over 1,800 yards. So, just saying. When's the last time you had a back do that, Jerry? So that was hilarious. And then when they could not come to terms with Mike McCarthy, they end up with Brian Schottenheimer, son of Coach Marty. Been around the league for a while as a coordinator. It's going to be his first head coaching job. And people are up in arms about this hire because it wasn't a splash hire. And I agree with that. If the status quo was okay with you, then why did you get rid of Mike McCarthy? Brian Schottenheimer has been in that building all this time while McCarthy has been there. The players know him. You needed to bring in somebody the players did not know so that they would not know what to expect. Sometimes you have to even shock your players. And we do this in corporate America all the time. Sometimes it's good to promote from within. Sometimes that's a bad thing. Sometimes that makes things worse because everybody knows that person. And they will only see that person as what they've always seen them as. But when you bring in somebody new, no expectations are established yet. That person gets to come in with a clean slate and be able to say, you know what? This is how I'm running this team. Now that works if you don't have a meddlesome owner too. Andy says, got to build up that O line, folks, across the board. Reed and Sirianni figured this out big time. God, if my dad was a coach, I'd probably be a coach. Yep, and that's how it happens. You'll be surprised. It's not even just coaches. It's there are family lineages to equipment managers. My dad was equipment manager. He used to bring me out all the time. So when he retires, I end up being one too. And I've seen so many stories on NFL films like that where there's a lot of successions of family in different parts of the NFL. But you got to build up that offensive line because I mean, I'll say Baltimore had a good line where Henry could run through that. Philadelphia had a good line where Saquon obviously is just running crazily through that too. And I know that that makes a difference because when my Carolina Panthers took Miles Sanders, who had just left Philadelphia, Sanders had a great year in Philadelphia, running all over the place. Gets to Carolina, can't run 2 yards. And that's when I realized, oh God, that line in Philly is really that good because you can take a running back that may be talented and gifted, but when you give them that much of an offensive line, it just enhances what they're able to do against when you have one that can't open up holes and seal and give your running back an opportunity to slip in and back out and cut and all that other kind of stuff. Um, that's the difference a lot of times. So, but yeah, with with Dallas just hiring more of the same, I've seen a lot of Cowboy fans just finally give up. Now, I will say this: I was just thinking this to myself earlier today. My friend that says he's no longer a Cowboys fan. As remote as it would be, as unlikely as it would be, I guarantee you, the Cowboys were going to the Super Bowl next year. Everything that he said, he would have forgot. He'll dust off all that stuff all over again, and all of a sudden, let bygones be bygones. I love Jerry. It'll all come back. That's all it's going to take for some of these Cowboy fans that have sworn to me that they're no longer Cowboy fans, and I'm sitting there looking at them like, yeah, okay. I just don't think you can walk away from delusion just that easily. Even though maybe you are now listening, I still think in the back of your mind, you're like, well, if they get off to an 8-0 start, if they get off to a 10-2 start, I might come back. I want to, if you're a Cowboys fan or a former Cowboys fan, and this was the year that you stopped being a Cowboys fan, I want you to say to me, the door is sealed, nailed shut. Meaning that I don't give a damn what they do next year. I don't care if they're in the Super Bowl. I'm not going to sit there and put on my 88 jersey anymore or my 22 jersey anymore. That's what I want to hear. Don't tell me while you upset with them that I'm quitting on them. If you really quitting, you tell me right now. I'm done with them for good. If you just sat there and said, well, I done took down my cowboy bedroom set and all of the stuff in my house that's got cowboys on it and put them in a storage trunk somewhere, you still a Cowboy fan because that means you're going to pull that mess out at some point. Now, if you like some of these other people that done burnt stuff, donated it to the Salvation Army, then I kind of believe that maybe you have moved on. Not that you can't go back and buy the stuff all over again, but the fact that you gave it away to somebody, you burned it. I kind of believe you a little bit more than those that just done, oh, I just done put it away. I ain't no Cowboy fan no more. Then what you holding on to it for? That's like if you and a girl break up, why her picture still in your house? What's up with that? If you moving on, move on. I mess with you Cowboy fans, but y'all do deserve it because y'all been rooting for this crazy ass franchise for years, and you finally starting to realize what everybody else has seen for years. It's funny, the things that are surprising you about your team are things that everybody else kind of already knew. It was the worst kept secret in the world. So just kind of saying that, Cowboys fans. Anyway, um, we're gonna head out a little early today, because next week is the NFL advancing the Chiefs for monetary reasons? I don't know, Andy. That's a good question. Um, on one hand, would they love to see the Chiefs win a third? Yes, because it's going to draw a lot of viewers. Um, and the NFL definitely, their rating horse for sure. They definitely want their ratings, especially as they continue to want to expand their product all over the world, whether it's playing games in Brazil like they did, the Germany games. They're playing more overseas games now. Um, I don't know if it's France that's getting one now or something like that, but they're having more NFL Europe games to expand. Just like how soccer, whether it's Man United, some of the other ones, folks root for now, Liverpool, all of that. They root for those even in America, how they expanded their reach. The NFL is trying to do the exact same thing. So does having a perennial favorite like the Kansas City Chiefs help them monetarily? Absolutely. But it could backfire if they lean too far into it, because then it just becomes a foregone conclusion that the Chiefs are always going to be in the mix. So you kind of want them to be good, but do you always want them in the finals? I don't think so. Would it be something for history to be able to call them three-time winners? Sure. But I want my Eagles to win. He said, gotta ask, this is the only show in town. A lot nice. I mean, so it plays both ways though, because it can help you, but at the same time, if you lean too much into it, it could start to turn off people. It could start to make people think, and there's a lot of people out there that already think it is, that the NFL is rigged. And I've pushed back on that so much because it is hard to rig an NFL game. There are just too many players, scenarios, and things that would have to happen. Refs could try to influence the outcome, and sometimes I think they have influenced the outcome. But to do that on a consistent basis, whether you're talking about point spreads or all these kind of things, that's hard to do. And I think what's put that in people's minds is point shaving that used to happen in basketball, and things like that. That's a smaller group of players. We're talking about 53 dudes, coaches, everything having to come together. Both teams agreeing to it. All of those kind of things would just make it seem almost crazy. I ain't gonna say anything is impossible, but it just makes it sound crazy. But if the Chiefs are always there, that is going to kind of foster some of those beliefs that, hey, what are we really doing? We know the Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. It'd be preseason, and they're like, what are we doing? Statistically, Reagan's got to be one out of 10,000. Exactly. But there's people that believe that not only does it happen, but it happens all the time. Not just, okay, it's this one game. They think it happens on all of them all the time. And I'm like, and Vegas is the one determining who's going to win, who's going to lose. You know how many players, people don't understand, players are incentivized to perform. So I get a salary, but then I have bonus triggers that if I lead the team in receptions, if I play X amount of snaps, receive yards, rushing yards, touchdowns, all kinds of things. There are triggers, bonus triggers to that. You're telling these grown men that are trying to sit there and make as much money as they can, oh, just throw it. It's a lot. That's crazy. But there's people on there that believe it. So, but if you constantly have the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl, it's only going to egg that on even more. So they have to be careful with that. Um, I think it's healthy for them to continue to be good. But should another team win the thing? Absolutely. Because it gives teams the belief that, hey, we can turn ourselves around. Think about all of the energy and buzz now going on in Washington. Think about some of the energy and buzz going around in Denver. Bo Nix came through a lot of games last year. They got something to believe in with them. So that's a young team. Minnesota has a reason to believe again. Kevin O'Connell just re-signed with the Vikings. Whether Sam Darnold is there or not, I believe that Minnesota is going to be contending in the NFC North for quite some time. That is going to be one of the hardest divisions, I believe, for a while between Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay, and if Chicago could get their stuff together, oh my God, nobody will want to see the NFC North. 30 years and counting, Vikings fan. That's what's up. And you know what? The only thing I was worried about with the Vikings this year, Andy, was the quarterback. Only because he had been the Carolina Panthers quarterback before. He'd been the Jets quarterback before. He was a backup with the 49ers. And, um, I don't blame Sam Darnold. He's on the short list for NFL Comeback Player of the Year. I'm rooting for him. I think he should get it. His last couple of weeks weren't the best, but people have to understand those are the most consequential games Sam Darnold has ever played in his life. In his life, he has never been in a position where he's had to be the man at the very end of the season. By the time he got down to the end of a season like that, it was a foregone conclusion that they were going to be going on vacation in January. So I give him a little grace in that because everybody can't just adapt to that spotlight. He did his thing enough through the regular season to show me that there is some there. That some coach found a way to get the ghost out of Sam Darnold's head and get the most out of him. And then some guys too, they come in from college and they got all of the measurements and stuff from the combine and everything else, but it doesn't always translate to instant success in the league. And some of them are late bloomers. I was a late bloomer in school. You know, some people are late bloomers. Some people come out, hit the ground running. C.J. Stroud last year, um, Jaden Daniels this year. But the commonality between Jaden Daniels and C.J. Stroud, they were both drafted second. When you look at Bryce Young and when you look at Caleb Williams, they both struggled in their first year. So sometimes it's not where you get drafted. Andy says O'Connell made Darnold a man. It happens to all of us at some point if we're lucky when we meet someone who believes in you. Amen. Amen. Wherever him and Andy, and I'll give you another example of that, Andy. Look at Jared Goff. Man, when the Rams sat there and unceremoniously dismissed him for Matthew Stafford, hell, I would think, and then when he went to Detroit, people kept wondering where were they going to find another quarterback to usurp him, to take over. Was he just a placeholder for the next guy? Because nobody really believed in Jared Goff anymore until Mr. Kraken kneecaps, Dan Campbell, came along and said, no, I'm going to push this kid to be a better version of himself. And he damn sure got a better version of Jared Goff. There were a lot of people that sat there after um, Sean McVay got rid of him in L.A. They were ready to put him on the trash heap. or put him in as a perennial backup. But all he needed, like Andy said, was somebody to believe in him. And now you can see the fruits of that. Did he get him all the way to the Super Bowl? No. But Detroit got a hell of a lot further, in my opinion, than they should have when they had over 13 guys on the defense. Not the team, the defense on injured reserve. Overcoming that, meaning that you have to basically lean on your offense to outscore the other team because you know your defense can't stop a Colt. And there were times where the defense did kind of step up and come up with some big stops, which was insane because these were guys that at the beginning of the season were not asked to basically fill those roles. They had other guys that kept dropping like flies. 13 guys on your IR off of one side of the ball, and you're in the playoffs? That's crazy. Not only in the playoffs, but you won your division. You had the number one seed in the conference. That's crazy. So I give Dan Campbell a whole lot of credit. I give Jared Goff a lot of credit for Detroit. It's going to be crazy, man. But anyway, we about to get up out of here. But listen, next Wednesday we'll have the show. NFL Honors will be on that Thursday. So me and Rand are going to get together and go through the we're going to go through the finalists for Coach of the Year, MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Assistant of the Year, all those the different things. Who we think is going to win it the next day. We'll also then be able to give you our Super Bowl predictions as well. I don't think it's any surprise who I'm going for. I had to put it on one more time. One more time. And then maybe next week. But anyway, y'all, thanks so much. Make sure again that you share, join, subscribe, do all that good stuff. We really do appreciate it. I should have my buddy. I love it. Let's go. Thank you. We should see y'all again next week. Y'all have a safe week, and we'll see y'all there.